Hello and welcome to the Wendell Effect for the Indian markets. My name is Brandon Wendell and getting ready to get started. Well, if you're wondering what I'm wearing, this actually is the Inter Miami kit since Lionel Messi will be joining our team this week. This is one of the special kits. Anyway, kind of excited down here in South Florida. But getting back to the markets, just a quick reminder, we are not broker dealers or investment advisors. We're going to look at this information from an educational standpoint, not telling you to buy, sell, or hold any particular securities or give any personalized recommendations. There's always risk of loss in the markets. No matter what we do, we can never guarantee anything, and we can never eliminate risk. We just try to minimize it. We're also not subject to any trading restrictions here, so we can have a position in a security or initiate one at any time. So that being said, we're going to move into, please stay in touch with me. You can contact me at brandonwendell.cmt@gmail.com if you got any questions about anything or want to have any requests that you'd like me to look at. You can also find me on Twitter at TraderBdub. And you can also search for me on YouTube. And please, if you wouldn't mind, hit the like and subscribe button. I appreciate that to help us out. We'll go ahead and jump into it now. For the week, last month, you can see that the Nifty was still pretty bullish. A few notable names not quite doing the same. Last week was a little bit mixed. And when we take a look at the Nifty on the charts, you can see that we've run up to our 100% duplication of the preceding impulse. So we had a big impulse up, correction down, and completed the same move to the upside. That's from the big move previously here. And even on the smaller move, we had this move up, pull back, and you see they overlapped, 1.272 and the 1. So this is a pretty natural area for us to have a little bit of a retracement, but it's still a very strong market. We should be able to reach up to the next target, 20,290 to 20,320. So overall, I'm just expecting a small pullback on the Nifty. And you can see on the daily, it should happen pretty soon. We had a higher move in price, but a lower high in the indicator, which is what we call a negative divergence. That usually leads to a pullback in price. So I'm expecting a correction. I don't know if it'll pull back this far, but our first demand zone is not until 18,722. We could just pull back to a Fibonacci retracement. That's why I have both of them there and being prepared on both of those. Dropping down to the 4-hour is pretty much the same. It's 18,722 is the same demand you see here. This, I suppose, could be a bit of demand at 19,010. You see we had that rally, little base, and then the rally to the upside. So that's another probable target on the pullback that could give us our bullish renewed move to break out to new highs. So you definitely see the divergence here much more dramatic. Looking at the Sensex, it's pretty much the same story. We've got demand down below at 63,601, but right now we're still pushing up. And looking at the daily chart, we do have that same divergence. We could pull back perhaps to 65,000, the whole number, or if it gets really bearish, which I don't see it doing, but we could go as low as 63,136. Looking at the 4-hour chart, you see the divergence a little bit stronger. And we already did a small pullback. We're just kind of choppy right now, but really we could get a little more bearish, maybe push us down to 64,900. There's that overlap like we had on the Nifty with demand and 61.8. So that would be the next big target if things do get bearish, but they don't look like they're really going to. We're still getting a lot of bullish activity. Looking at Nifty IT, we broke out. I was anticipating that. We were putting on the Fibonacci retracements last week. You can see we actually retraced a little deeper, went to 61.8%, and are now breaking out towards our next supply. And really the target is 31,378 for the next retracement. So watch for us to hit that. We might go a little slow in the first part of the week, but we do have plenty of momentum to not only hit this, but even break it. So keep an eye out. If we're going to retrace, that stumble will likely come around 31,400 area. On Nifty Auto, we are now at a possible retracement point. As you can see, we ran up to duplicate our previous impulse and may pull back. We could get a retest of this 15,289 before we go higher to our next target, 16,000. So I'm looking at this week as a possible pullback to bounce at this level and then eventually, maybe next week, reach our target. Nifty PSU, same sort of thing going on. We have a correction after we reach some highs. So we're pulling back a little bit. We'll have to see if we stop at one of these fib levels. Look for confirmation. If you go from a 1-day down to a 1-hour chart, you'll see higher lows and higher highs on the candles. That will tell you that that's the turning point that we're looking for. On the Nifty CPSE, I was looking for a break of this bearish harami, and it actually happened. We did get the breakdown. retested once more before we made some new lows. And when we made that same high as we did before, we did it with a lot less momentum, so that's negative divergence. So I remember a storm out here, so you probably hear thunder behind me. But anyway, you can see that we are now pushing back down with a correction. This is a bullish candle, though, so if we break the high of that candle on the open on Monday morning, then look for us to continue higher. If not, we're going to come down to the demand at 3,200. The Nifty digital daily chart, you can see we've run up into a measured move, and now I'm expecting a pullback. We actually made a pullback initially of 78.6% before we rallied up, so it was pretty bearish. Right now, we actually got a lot more momentum than we've had before, so I expect it's only to pull back maybe to the 60.41 or maybe 6,000 even, and then we'll bounce and try to reach 6,200 eventually. On to the Nifty Private Bank, you see we are still retracing, but trying to find our footing. We need to break out above these highs. If we do, then we're going to shoot up towards 23,404. If not, then we could go a bit sideways or even drift lower to the next Fibonacci level before we bounce. That would be 22,641. Nifty PSE is also on a retracement. It did show a bullish candle on Friday with some bottom tails there. That's bullish pressure. We need to break the high of that candle, then we can shoot to the upside to 53.03. If we don't break the high, if we break the low of the candle, expect a pullback to possibly this 5,000 level before we bounce. Nifty Financial Services also may be done correcting. We pulled back 61.8%, and we're trying to move up, but we need to get the RSI above 60 in order for us to, and also get above the high of these candles, basically above 20,150. If we can do that and get the RSI above 60, then we'll continue to push higher. Might be able to reach 25.85 by the end of the week. Eventually, we'll reach out to the 21.14. But if we don't, if we stay below 60 on the RSI, expect some weakness to creep in and pull us back, probably to test these prior lows at 19,456. Again, Nifty Pharma, we are stalling out its supply, but the good news is, because we're stalling out and not dropping, even though we're losing momentum, this is still very, very bullish, this sector, in this index. So we may just get a small pullback to 13,767, that 23% retracement. Because again, we made it up to this high, we're now going sideways. If we do pull back, it's that. If we don't pull back, we can break out of this trend line on the RSI with a new high on price. I would expect this to test 14,125, the next target, or even push deep into that supply towards 14,200. We have the Nifty Small Cap 50. We are getting ready for a possible retracement. Notice it started off as a bearish engulfing, where you have this red candle engulfing the previous, but we now turned it into a harami as well. We couldn't get anything going on this side, so if we break the low of this candle, look out below, we could get a push down towards 4,900. So keep an eye out. This looks like it could be the top of a move before we start dropping rapidly. On the mid cap 50, we actually have a different picture. We are losing momentum, so we're diverging, but we're still trying to make highs. So we're probably going to go a little bit sideways. Could drift a little higher towards the 10,413, that target overhead, but most likely we're going to be a bit sideways this week and may pull back just a little bit as well. On Nifty Healthcare, we are also pulling back from a high. It doesn't look like it wants to pull back that much. You can see. Sorry, I got all these animals making noise around. But you can see we're getting a little bit of a pullback here, and now we got a bullish candle. So if we can break the high of the candle, we continue. We end up at this 91.92 projection. So if we don't, however, so for that to happen, we have to break the high of this candle and break out above that trend line on the RSI for momentum. If we break the low of this candle, expect this to pull back to 88.86.55. That's the Fibonacci level, and also this little basing right here as well. Again, Nifty Infrastructure also in a pullback. You can see it's already made a 23% retracement, and then maybe the end. Again, this is kind of a Dragonfly Doji, a bullish sign. If we can break the high of that Dragonfly Doji, we'll most likely break out with momentum and move up towards 59.93. If not, expect a little bit more of a pullback, possibly down to 5,700. Nifty Oil and Gas also retraced 23%, as you can see. Pretty common. All these are doing the same kind of pullbacks. We do have demand here. Really, it's between these two Fibonacci retracements. We kind of have rally, base, rally between 76.55, 77.33. So if we continue to break down, You break the low of that candle, that's where we're going to go, 77.33 before we bounce. But if we're done retracing and we're resuming our bullish move, we break the high of this green candle and we target 82.54. And Nifty FMCG has already retraced 50%, but it's not getting a whole lot of momentum to push back higher. It looks as though this may be a little weak where we just kind of go drifting a little sideways this week. So not expecting a lot out of this. There's really not a whole lot of momentum that we should have to be able to go higher. Looking at Nifty Energy, it also retraced back to 38.2% already. Could go a little lower. We do have another demand zone here at 25.054. 50% retracement. You can see that's the origin of the previous rally. Oops, sorry. And if we could bounce from here, again, if you break the high of this candle, expect this to shoot up towards 26,000 by the end of the week. If we don't, obviously, if we break the low of this candle, we should be hopefully bounce somewhere in this range, but we will not make a new high before the end of the week. Nifty MNC looks pretty bullish, but look at the momentum. It's going the wrong way. So this looks like we're just going to drift sideways for the week. I would look elsewhere for better opportunities. Nifty Realty already retraced, and this is what we want to see. There's that hammer or dragonfly doji where we end up gapping above it, retesting and saying goodbye as we're moving higher. So this looks like it is a strong sector, and we'll try to at least hit 546. If not, reach up to 561 by the end of the week if we get a really bullish week. Nifty Consumer Durables also seeing a bit of divergence, might pull back. Our nearest demand zone to bounce is this 26.501, 26.240, and then my target once we bounce from that would be this 27.845. But it looks like this is ready to pull back a bit. Nifty Media also had a small pullback after hit Fibonacci extension. It looks like it's reaching out to the next one, but we had this big move up without momentum, so we need to pull back first. Expect the beginning of the week to be choppy before we eventually rally up towards the end of the week. Pretty much the same thing we've been doing. You see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday up. Well, here it was bullish, but Friday was the big one up as well. So expect something similar to that with a sideways move and then a rally up towards 1958 late in the week. Again, Nifty Metal, we're already at a projection target. But instead of pulling back, we're continuing to go. We've got plenty of momentum. Notice we're making higher highs on momentum and breaking higher. We could continue to push up towards 6,700 this week. And moving on to the Nifty Bank, our last sector, you see we pulled back 50% from our last impulse up. Looks like we're basing again with that Dragonfly Doji, a bullish candle. If we break the high of the candle, we'll try to move up towards 45,882. If we break the low of the candle, I would expect us to retrace back towards this 43,500 by the end of the week. So we'll do a little follow-up on some trade ideas I put out. We had HDFC daily chart, which I think is actually stopping trading now. So I was told they're merging HDFC and HDFC Bank. So I don't think this one's going to be trading anymore. So keep that in mind. We did get a bit of a pullback here right to a demand zone. And it's unfortunate, but I think we're going to have to not trade this anymore if they're stopping the trading. Somebody was saying July 13th was the end. So let me confirm that. If I go out to my charts, HDFC, and we see that, yep, it did stop trading. You see right there, 12th was last and we're done. So now we have to go to HDFC Bank for continued trading on that security. There it is. And it is almost the same, but not quite. And we're just kind of going sideways. We do have earnings coming up, so we don't want to trade anything in front of those earnings. So I would just wait on that until after the earnings. But we are sitting at some strong demand, and we're getting some bottom tails. This wants to go up, but again, we got to be careful with those earnings coming out. It could throw it in either direction. And let's see, what do we have here? There's a prior triangle that we broke out of. Move this. As I said, really the demand is probably this last candle here. We have drop, base, rally, and just kind of penetrating that. If we do break down on bad news, we could just base here at 1604 again before trying to push back up. So keep an eye out for that. NHPC Limited already bounced from our demand zone, started pushing up, and basically hit our target. So hopefully you're able to take advantage of that because this was something we've been following for a while. it went up and reached our target with a nice little move. We've got a negative divergence, so we get a pullback, but it may be done pulling back. It might be getting ready to push up towards target 2. I have to look back to see where target 2 is. I don't have it on the chart right at this moment. But if we break the high of this candle, expect it to continue to move up. Rama Steel, this was also one we were waiting for it to come into our demand zone for an 889. It did, but there was a problem here. The problem is, as we came into demand, the RSI dipped below 40. When that happens, you typically will not make a new high without a pullback first. Fortunately, our target is before that new high, but it's not very far from it. So we're likely, if you did get long, it's okay. You're likely to see a little bit of a stumble this week before we go up again. Just be patient. Zomato, this was another trade we were watching. Unfortunately, it hit target first before it hit our entry. When it happens like that, where it hits target first, it usually doesn't work out, so I usually abandon the trade. Credit Access was also one we were waiting for a pullback to 1200, and I believe, it just kind of rallied up first before it came back to our target, so we're probably going to have to abandon that too. It also looks like it's just going to drift a bit sideways. Time Tech, again, also ran up towards target before hitting entry, so I typically don't continue to follow those. We're going to go ahead and throw that one out. IDFC First Bank was another one we were waiting for a pullback to our demand zone, and I don't think it's done it yet, so we're still waiting, but unfortunately prices are still moving up, but we are losing momentum. Keep in mind there are earnings coming up as well. You don't want to necessarily be in the security when earnings come out. It's very unpredictable. IDFC Limited also having some problems getting back down for an entry. Let's see. You can see we went a bit sideways. That was last week's picture. Now this week we're still drifting higher, so we're probably not going to be able to take an entry on this. So we'll skip it. And Hindustan Construction also is one that we were looking for a pullback to get in, but unfortunately we moved up towards target 1. As you can see, we're just drifting a bit sideways, so I'm going to give up on that one as well. Lock Industries is pulling back towards the entry. It's been taking a while. We really need a quick move in for it to bounce very well, so keep an eye out on that. If it continues to drift like this, I won't take the entry. But if it can drop quickly into the demand and the 89 moving average, I'd expect a pretty good bounce towards our targets. So for some new trade ideas coming up this week, I have RTN Power Daily, waiting for a pullback here on a daily chart, getting in around 395 to 415 with a stop below. Target 1, we kind of formed a little bit of a weak supply here at 515, so we want to get out at 5. And then we have another overhead supply. We're exiting at 680 for target number 2. SJVN daily chart, waiting for a pullback to our demand, 4025, 4062. Stop goes below, target 1, 5115, target 2, 5640. M&M Finance is close to a couple of levels. You could either take it separately and try to trade the upper level and keep your stop just below. That's from 301.15 to 309.70 with the stop at 299.90. Or you can try to put it your stop below both levels, maybe around 287.40. Anyway, targets are projections here, 351.40 and 377.20. Axis Bank on the daily chart, waiting for a pullback for an 889 and 926.10 to buy. And keep in mind, there are earnings coming up as well. That might be a catalyst where if the earnings come out and drive prices into demand, it could bounce pretty well. Anyway, if you've got any questions, of course, email me, brandonwendell.cmt@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me on Twitter. I do put out tweets regularly, and that's at TraderBdub. Also, please, if you could, hit the like button and subscribe. Helps us out a lot. You can also get the alerts notification. Until next time, trade safe, trade well, and take care, everyone. Thank you for watching.